My name is Jake, and 6 months ago, I was declared dead. The official story was that I was the victim of a violent attack on a remote humanitarian outpost in West Africa. My wife, Sarah, became a widow, a very, very wealthy widow. $2 million to be exact. That was my life insurance policy, a policy she wasted no time cashing in. The problem for her? I wasn't dead, not even close, and I was about to turn her picture-perfect new life into a living nightmare. It all started with a sound you never forget, an explosion. I was a security consultant, my last trip before settling into a desk job back home. Sarah and I had talked about it for months. She said she couldn't take the worry anymore. I thought she was just a loving, concerned wife. Turns out, she was just impatient. The attack came at dawn. It was pure chaos, smoke, and screaming. I was thrown by the blast and knocked out cold. When I came to, I wasn't in the rubble. I was in a small, mud brick hut, my head bandaged, my body aching in ways I can't even describe. A local family had found me, pulled me from the wreckage, and carried me to their village miles from any road. No phone, no internet, no way to contact the outside world. For weeks, I drifted in and out of consciousness, healing under the care of strangers whose kindness needed no translation. My first coherent thought was, Sarah. I had to let her know I was alive. It took another month before I was strong enough to travel. The journey to the nearest capital was a grueling trek on foot and by riverboat. When I finally walked into the US Embassy, looking like a ghost, I thought the worst was over. I was wrong. The worst was just beginning. A clean-cut guy at the consulate looked at me with a mix of pity and disbelief. He typed my name, Jake Miller, into his computer. He frowned, typed it again. Sir, he said, his voice hesitant, according to our records, you're deceased. I actually laughed, a raw, ragged sound. Clearly, I'm not, I said, gesturing to my very much alive self. We have a consular report of death abroad for you, he went on, his eyes glued to the screen. Issued 2 months ago, based on documents from your employer and your wife. He explained that after the attack, a body, burned beyond recognition, was identified as me through dental records. Except, they weren't my dental records. Sarah, my wife, had provided a set of x-rays. She had identified my personal effects. She organized a memorial service. She collected the $2 million insurance policy. The consular officer said she'd filed the paperwork not like a grieving widow, but like a CEO closing a hostile takeover of my life. It seems she'd gotten her hands on a forged local death certificate. In a chaotic region, getting one of those was like finding a pirated movie online. Unethical, illegal, but shockingly easy, if you know where to look. With what looked like corroborating evidence, the embassy issued the official report. In the eyes of the world, in the eyes of my own government, I no longer existed. The blood just drained from my face. It wasn't a mistake. It was a plan. Sarah hadn't just moved on, she had paved the way. The "I miss yous" from her last emails now read like a sick joke. Every memory we'd ever shared was now just a lie. The woman I trusted with my life had sold it for $2 million. Being officially dead, I learned, is a bureaucratic nightmare. It's like your whole life is an entry in a database and someone just hit the delete key. I was a ghost in the system. My bank accounts were frozen, my identity void. The embassy official told me it could take months to prove I was alive. DNA tests, affidavits, a mountain of paperwork. And as I sat in that sterile office, a cold, hard anger started to burn away the shock. A normal man would fight to be declared alive. A normal man would call his wife, screaming for answers. But I wasn't a normal man anymore. Sarah had killed that man. She'd replaced him with a ghost. And I decided right then and there that a ghost was exactly what I would be. She wanted me dead. Fine. I'd stay dead. Long enough for her to get comfortable. Long enough for my return to be the single most destructive moment of her life. They say revenge is a patient game, and I had nothing but time. First step, get home without alerting Sarah that Jake Miller had risen from the grave. I couldn't just book a flight. My passport was flagged. This is where my old life gave me an edge. Years in dangerous places means you make certain contacts. I called one, an old army buddy, Marcus. "Jake? I thought you were dead, man," he said, pure shock in his voice. I gave him the short version. He didn't hesitate. "What do you need?" Marcus is a master of logistics, both the legal and not-so-legal kind. He arranged for new travel documents, a quiet way back into the States, and a small, anonymous apartment on the outskirts of the city. He also set me up with a laptop and a burner phone. I became Alex Jacobs, an invisible man. From my little ghost hole of an apartment, I started my surveillance. I watched her new life unfold like a movie I was supposed to be the star of, but was now just watching from the cheap seats. She'd sold our house, the one we were supposed to grow old in. She'd bought a sleek condo downtown, trading our memories for a skyline view. Her social media was a public spectacle. Her posts weren't just updates. They were like a curated museum of a perfect tragedy, with her playing the heroic survivor. And then I saw him. Mark. He started appearing in her photos about a month after I died. First, as a supportive friend. Then, the photos got more intimate. Dinners, weekend trips, and finally, a beaming shot of them on a yacht, a diamond ring on her finger. The caption, "Found my silver lining in the storm." I said yes. Engaged, less than 5 months after she declared me dead. The rage that filled me was so white-hot it was clarifying. This wasn't just about the money. She wanted to erase me and replace me with an upgraded model, all while playing the grieving widow. So, I decided to haunt her. Nothing big, just small, strange things to make her feel like she was losing her mind. I started with flowers. She loved black calla lilies. I used to get them for her. I had a bouquet delivered to her new condo. No card. These weren't loud noises to scare her. They were like a dripping faucet in a dark room. Small, maddening reminders that something was wrong. Next, I used a cloned credit card with a tiny limit, one we'd shared years ago. I made small, bizarre purchases. A single track from a death metal band I used to joke about. A subscription to a magazine about surviving in the wilderness. A donation of $1.11 to a charity for missing persons. Little digital whispers from beyond the grave. Meanwhile, I hired a private investigator, Costello. He dug into Sarah and Mark, and the story he found was even uglier than I imagined. They'd dated in college. Costello found emails between them going back a year before my death. They talked about their future, about the obstacle, me, and about the payout that would set them free. It was all there, cold and premeditated. Costello also found the online wedding invitation, a lavish affair at a historic country estate. October 12th, I had my stage. I had my deadline. Now, I needed to make my resurrection official, but on my terms. I contacted a lawyer, Diana. I laid out everything. She was flawed, but her eyes had the same steely glint I felt in my own. Her plan was brilliant, like a carefully scripted play. We would let them take the stage, say their lines, and bask in the applause. Our role was to wait until the final act to bring the house down. Diana made a few quiet calls, preparing a full package for the DA's office and the insurance company's fraud division. She even got a local police detective on board, who, apparently, loved a bit of theatrical justice. They agreed to be on standby outside the venue, waiting for my signal. The final weeks were a blur. I gave my statement to the insurance investigators. I bought a suit, a dark, perfectly tailored suit. I wanted to look my best. I even read up on other cases, like that guy in the UK who faked his own death in a canoe. It's always the same story. They get arrogant, they celebrate too early, and that's when you get them. The night before the wedding, I couldn't sleep. Was any of it real, or was I always just an investment, waiting to mature? The grief was long gone, burned away by rage. Now, there was only a cold, calm certainty. Tomorrow, I wasn't just getting my life back. I was taking hers. The day of the wedding was perfect. Too perfect. Brilliant blue sky, autumn leaves, the whole picturesque scene. Costello had gotten me a staff uniform and a security pass. I blended in with the catering crew, a ghost in plain sight. I watched it all unfold, the guests arriving in their finest. My own parents, my sister, all there to celebrate the wedding of their brave, widowed daughter-in-law. They hugged her. That was a knife in my gut. She hadn't just stolen my life, she'd stolen my family's reality. I saw Mark, the groom, smug and triumphant in his tuxedo. He looked like the cat that got the $2 million cream. And then I saw Sarah, radiant. Her dress was a masterpiece I knew my life insurance had paid for. She was a vision of innocence, gliding through the crowd. She was the best actress I'd ever seen. For a second, her eyes scanned the room and I thought she saw me, but she looked right through me. The catering guy in the corner, invisible. The ceremony began. Mark stood at the altar, a stupid grin on his face. Then the music changed. The bridal chorus. Every head turned. And there she was, at the end of the aisle, on her father's arm. She started her walk, a perfect portrait of bridal bliss. That was my cue. I took off the catering jacket, straightened the tie of my dark suit. I stepped out from the shadows at the back of the venue, and I started walking down the center aisle, in the opposite direction. At first, nobody noticed. All eyes were on the bride. But then a murmur started in the back pews. The string quartet faltered. Sarah was halfway down the aisle when she frowned, annoyed at the disruption. Mark looked over his shoulder, his smile fading. And then he saw me. His face went from confusion to disbelief to sheer, abject terror. He turned the color of ash. Sarah followed his gaze. She turned. Our eyes met. For real this time. Her world stopped, like someone had pulled the plug on her entire reality. The color drained from her face. Her mouth fell open. The bouquet of white roses slipped from her fingers. A single choked gasp escaped her lips. "Jake?" I kept walking, slow and deliberate, each step an earthquake under her new life. I stopped right in front of her, between her and the altar. The guests were on their feet, whispering, pointing. My parents were just staring, my mother's hand over her mouth. I looked Sarah dead in the eye. She was trembling. "You look beautiful, Sarah," I said, my voice calm and clear in the stunned silence. But a black dress might have been more appropriate. A woman in the front row screamed. "Who is this?" Her father stammered, trying to step between us. I never took my eyes off Sarah. "Don't you recognize me? It's Jake, your son-in-law, the one you all buried 6 months ago." Chaos. "It can't be!" someone shouted. Sarah finally found her voice, a pathetic whisper. "No, you're dead." "I was," I agreed, nodding slowly. "You made sure of that. You forged documents. You lied to my family, to the government. You cashed the check. Did you really think you'd get away with it?" Mark finally snapped out of it. "Security!" he shrieked, pointing a shaky finger at me. "Get him out of here!" "They're already here," I said. On cue, the grand doors swung open. 2 uniformed officers and the detective, with Diana by their side, stepped inside. The room went silent. I turned from Sarah to address the guests. "For anyone who's confused," I said, my voice now loud and commanding, "this woman, my wife, conspired with this man to fake my death and steal $2 million in life insurance. They left me for dead, and while I was fighting my way back home, they were planning this wedding with my money." The detective stepped forward. "Sarah Miller, Mark Reynolds, you are under arrest for conspiracy and fraud." The moment the handcuffs clicked onto Sarah's wrists, her facade shattered. The mask of the beautiful bride didn't just slip, it shattered like cheap glass, revealing the snarling, cornered animal underneath. "You bastard!" she screamed at me, her face twisted with hate. "You ruined everything." "No, Sarah," I said softly, the last words she'd ever hear from me in person. "You did." The fallout was spectacular. The story, as you can imagine, was everywhere. In cases like this, with so much evidence, the legal battle is swift. The emails, the financial records, and my testimony, they didn't stand a chance. Sarah, as the architect of the fraud, was sentenced to 7 years in federal prison. Mark got 5. The insurance company got every last cent of their $2 million back. As for me, getting declared officially alive again was the easy part. The hard part was putting my life back together. It was less like healing and more like a salvage operation. I had to sift through the wreckage of what she'd done and decide what parts of my old life were worth keeping. My relationship with some people was strained. They'd been fooled so completely. and my return was a constant reminder. But my parents and my sister stood by me, just grateful to have me back. I never wanted the money. I just wanted justice, and I got it. I moved away, started over with a new job, a new town, a real life this time. It's strange. For 6 months, the world thought I was dead, but in a way, I had to die to really start living again. Sarah taught me that the deepest betrayals come from those you trust the most, but she also showed me my own strength, my own ability to survive. She tried to erase me, but she ended up forging me into something stronger. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. I don't know about that. I served mine at a wedding, in front of 200 people, and I can tell you, it was absolutely satisfying. This is a crazy story, I know, and it makes you wonder, so I have to ask, what would you have done in my situation? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to hear more stories about betrayal and sweet, sweet revenge, make sure you subscribe.